Allen this morning. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me on, Courtney. I appreciate it.
So tell me about you and tell me about the book that you wrote.
Well, Lisa Allen, I'm from Winterville, North Carolina, and my book is about four women, and their lives are very interesting. They come together and decide that they need a break. They're going to go to the beach. They go to Emerald Isle. Who doesn't love Emerald Isle? So they get there, though, and some bad news gets to them that something has happened at home, and they have to return. And it affects one of the women in the book, but it actually simultaneously recreates all their lives.
Where did your inspiration come from for this book?
Well, I've always wanted to write a book. And like you and I were just talking before this segment, you love to read, I love to read. We had a little thing happen a couple years ago, where everyone got stuck at home. And I could have either spent that time reading or painting. I love to paint as well, a little artsy. So I decided I was going to write for the first time, like I wanted to write. I have done some writing in the past, career-wise, with different work efforts, but this was a novel, and it's fiction, and I just started it. So, a few months later, I had like 90,000 words, and I needed to do something with them.
Yeah, yeah.
I started researching self-publishing and looking at those avenues, or publishing with a publishing house, looking at those avenues. And that in itself is a process. So it can be quite challenging to find, once you write that book, how do you get that book out there?
Yeah.
So that's a big piece of the puzzle in getting that book to the shelf.
Do you have a favorite book or a favorite author?
I go back to my childhood, and I mentioned this in the book, Louisa May Alcott, Little Women. I remember that book, and then later on, they had series on television for it, so I watched it, and I remembered the book all over again. But, back in the day, I'm going to show my age here, I used to love Danielle Steele.
Yeah.
And read some Mary Kay Andrews, who hasn't read this guy named Nicholas that lives down the road in Newbern? Love his work. So, my style's my own style. It may remind you of someone else's writing. And if so, I'm flattered by that. I have just tried to create something that was unique and you could get lost in and just start reading it and just not want to put it down.
And you say that it's your own style, but did you find yourself taking any kind of inspiration from anybody, or did you really feel like this was your own style?
There are some online writing tests you can do. And in the beginning, I did some of those. And it came back and said, similar to Ernest Hemingway. And I don't know if I've ever really remember reading of his work.
Wow.
And then, you can run it through several different formats of writing. And one of the other ones that I can't remember now, I just left my brain. I'll have to think about that and come back and tell you about it. But so, you might want to try that sometime, going online and just writing a little bit and put it in one of those writing tests. It's called Pro Writing Aid, I think is the name of the service online.
Wow. That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it did say that my writing style was also similar to Louisa May Alcott. So
Wow.
yeah, that was pretty interesting to see that as well. And one of her quotes is right over here at the front of my book. I'll make sure I credit her correctly. Let's see. Painful as it may be, a significant emotional event can be the catalyst for choosing a direction that serves us and those around us more effectively. Look for the learning. And that in itself, that one quote summarized my book. Here's a copy of it, and there's a big poster behind me as well.
Is there any reason you decided to use that?
I did. I always liked her writing. And it was a perfect description of what happens with these ladies in this book. They come together and they learn something great from a tragedy. And if you can come out of any situation like that, I think you're a better person.
Absolutely.
Just four friends kind of joining together to create something wonderful. I can't give much more away, or spoiler alert.
You got to leave a little something for people to read.
That's right.
Did you have a favorite part about writing?
Um, I love the writing part, the actual sit down, let the words come to you, get it on in that format. Just setting and imagining if we could have gone somewhere during that beginning of lockdown, where would we go? What would we do? How would we be enjoying life? So for me, that was a great coping mechanism early on in our little 2-year event that happened, And I just sat on my back porch, and you couldn't really go anywhere. Places were closed.
Yeah.
So I sat on my back porch and just kind of got lost in the world of these 4 women. And then, that was my favorite part. Then the hard part comes in where you are editing, you are formatting. That's when you get some good people in your corner that you can partner with, and they help you with those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever you published this book and you got your first good review, how did that feel?
Well, that's a nervous thing to wait for. About a week before the book came out, I really became nervous. People are going to start talking about this book. It's going to be at Barnes and Noble. It's going to be on Amazon, and people will buy it and they will read my work. Well, they like it. And then I just kind of had to come to the conclusion. I watched a movie that weekend. I can't even remember the name of the movie, but it was a college setting in a classroom where it was journalism, and they had read some work of literature, and the students were discussing it. And one was talking about how they liked this part of the book. One was saying how they didn't like this part of the book. And someone else was mentioning the book over and over again and different things and aspects about it. And they're almost sort of kind of becoming a posture of defense. The part that the professor pointed out was, this is what a good book does. It gets people talking about life. And that's just sort of, it was kind of like a little blessing from heaven that got sent to me and just sort of put my anxiety to rest.
Absolutely.
And so.
Now, how did it feel? How rewarding was it to see your book at a bookstore? I mean, Barnes and Noble is a big bookstore, and I know a lot of people who go there just to kind of sit there and read for hours. And it's really becoming, and I guess this is my age showing, very, I guess the word is trendy, to go to Barnes and Noble and you read. And how does it feel to know that your book is there at this now so-called trendy place?
Oh, well, thank you for that. I've never really felt awfully trendy, but
That's exactly what it is. I mean,
yeah.
it's true.
Well, it's very surreal. You walk in, and I took some pictures of it and posted on my Facebook page. The Key in the Willow Tree is on Facebook, and it's very surreal to walk in and see your book on a table with very famous authors.
Yeah.
And 2 books over from Gone with the Wind. And,
wow.
One of the things I'm most excited about is my charity of choice. The Service League of Greenville contacted me and asked could they carry the book in the hospital bookshop. So for those folks who happen to be at the hospital for whatever reason, you go through the foyer in their bookshop, their gift shops back there in the corner. It's available there, and they get 30% profit from the sales of the book. Goes to the Service League of Greenville, which we know they support so many great endeavors within the healthcare. Ronald McDonald House, they do so much for hospice care. They do so much for cancer care. It's a wonderful charitable organization, and I'm proud to be a part of that and help those ladies in that group. They're a great group of ladies. They work hard for the community. So any of the team members at the Now ECU Help, if you stop by the bookstore, the 30% of that purchase there will go to that Service League of Greenville.
Now, here's the main question. And I know your fans want to know. I've seen it on the post, and maybe you don't know, but I know they keep saying that they want one. Is there going to be a sequel?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, and you hear that first. I am working on that now. What sort of drove me to start that is getting the feedback from the first book and people saying, I want to know what happens. I want to know what the next phase of their lives are. And so from that, I went ahead and started putting together some ideas, and 20,000 words in on the sequel.
Wow. I know they'll be excited, and that makes me excited.
Yeah, and hopefully, there'll be a trilogy here.
Yeah,
And
we'll just keep going.
Yeah.